Is some new information when it comes to benefits. Thanks for everyone who's just tuning in. We got sort of surprised this morning because there was a new update here from Chrysler Freeland and the Prime Minister, and I saw some headlines that seem to suggest that there are changes to these pandemic benefits alongside many other things. So I figured instead of just taking this slowly and doing my research just for me and then making a separate video, I figured I'd just turn on this live stream and do this research myself so we can find out exactly how this is going to affect the various changes that are actually coming as a result of these announcements. So I'm going to start here by pulling up an article, CBC benefit changes that I saw. Okay. Federal government expands lockdown supports to people, businesses affected by capacity limits. Okay, this is what we want to get our information from. And then we're going to watch through this video and find out exactly what's going on. If you're just tuning into the stream, let me know how it's going. Say hey in the chat. I'll throw actually chat up here while we do this. And you can see yourself up there. Hopefully, oh, whoops, something went wrong. That's not quite right. Let's see if I can change that. There we go. There's chat. Okay, up on the screen. It's great to see everyone here. All right, so let's flip into this, and I'll keep chat up in the corner there. And so let me pull up my sort of annotation software so I can give us a closer look. So Finance Minister wouldn't confirm when one-time payments for seniors who had GIS clawback would be coming. Okay, so maybe there's more information about the GIS payments. That's been a big issue lately. Hey everyone, I'm seeing people in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. Just a quick research stream here to help out figure out what actually happened today with these changes. And I'm sure I'll make a full update video after we do all of this research, but we'll find out. I'm seeing Shane and This is Canada 2019, Sherman, Neil and Footprints, Yasser, Delta, Wild, Alex, Jacob, Pecans, Sarah, Sarai, and Alex. Hey, good to see everyone here. Okay, so let's find out what's going on here. Finance Minister wouldn't confirm when these one-time payments were going to be. The federal government's expanding access to pandemic financial supports as much of the country grapples with surging COVID-19 infections and new restrictions are implemented across the country. We talked in the video yesterday about how a lot of people are frustrated by this, the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit, because it didn't actually allow people to apply for it unless it was deemed an actual proper lockdown. So let's see. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced the measures in a news conference Wednesday in which he appeared virtually. He was following the local public health advice after 6 members of his staff and security detail tested positive for COVID. For the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit and the local lockdown program, you'll be able to apply if you're subject to capacity limiting restrictions. Oh, so this seems like it's going to make it so that everyone can apply for the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit? This is exactly what we talked about and what we predicted yesterday, right? We talked about, hey, there are things that you can change about this legislation, and it seems like they're exhausting those, or they're actually taking advantage of those rights. They're changing it so that you're going to be able to apply for it not only if you're in a full 100% lockdown, but even if you're just subject to capacity limiting restrictions. Obviously, in the stream, we're going to get into figuring out exactly what this means and who actually this applies to. Yeah, I'm seeing Munims here say, hey, I have applied to CRCB benefits after new extension. There were 4 periods available together, so I applied for all 4 at once. Is it okay? If you're applying retroactively, I believe that you can apply for multiple at the same time. So that should be okay for you as long as you're eligible. All right, let's see. This is just a 1 minute and 30-second video. I'll make sure I have the volume up so you can hear it too. Let's see what they include in this.
We are announcing today that we're temporarily expanding eligibility for key programs. For the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit and the local lockdown program, you'll be able to apply if you're subject to capacity limiting restrictions. The Deputy Prime Minister will have the details, but here's the bottom line. We need to, all of us, do what it takes so Canadians are protected and to have what you need to weather the storm. We're going to be there for the hard-hit regions, for specific sectors like art and culture, hospitality, and tourism. We will be there to keep you and your family safe. We're going to continue to work closely with the provinces and territories, but we will be there with supports for the areas that need it. It's going to be really, really important that we do everything we can to get through this. We know that rapid tests are a part of the solution as well. We've delivered about 85 million rapid tests up until the month of December to provinces and territories. Just this month in December, we're delivering about 35 million rapid tests to provinces and territories, and we've got tens and tens of millions more rapid tests arriving in the coming weeks into the new year. So provinces and territories will have the supplies necessary to get them into people's hands.
Okay, so that's the quick teaser. There is a full video, and I think it's a full long stream, and I think we're probably going to check that out during the stream to find out what the individual details that Christopher Freeland brought up were. But we're going to continue with this article to find out some of these questions I'm seeing in the chat, like the one from Bernie here, how do we apply and who can? We're going to get into those details on this stream, and of course, we're going to figure out exactly what this means for everyone here. That's the whole point of this channel, to help people understand what is going on. So it says that employees in regions where governments have introduced capacity restrictions of 50% or more will now be eligible for the Canada Worker Lockdown benefit if they've lost more than half of their income. Okay, so you have to show a 50% income reduction. This was in the Canada Worker Lockdown benefit before, I believe. It means more Canadians are now able to take advantage of the $300 per week program. So that's answering a question, and that's one thing we do know for those of you who are now going to be able to apply and be able to receive this benefit. It's a $300 per week program. Likely you apply each and every week for it. There was some stipulations in the Canada Worker Lockdown benefit that made it so you had to be in a lockdown or in a lockdown region for 14 full days before you could claim a benefit. We're going to find out if that's actually something that's still sticking around with these changes that are coming, because it is something that can be changed via regulation. And so this $300 per week, that adds up to $1,200 per month, but then they take 10% for tax, which is $120. So what's the math on that? It'll look closer to $1,080 likely for the full month of applications for this benefit. They go on and say, similarly, employers who are subject to capacity restrictions of 50% or more and face current month declines in revenue of at least 25% can apply for local lockdown program. Okay, cool. So they're allowing more businesses to apply for this as well. This was a big problem in Bill C2, is that like nobody could actually apply and get any of these benefits. So it seems like they're coming to their senses a little bit with how this is actually going to work. I think people are past the point of accepting these full 100% lockdowns, everything's closed. Like, I don't really see that happening, so but it's good that they're making these changes. The expanded eligibility is expected to cost $4 billion, the government said in a new release. These new regulations will apply retroactively to December 19th and last until February 12th, 2022. Wow, that's interesting. I wonder, I haven't really looked at it. I can't believe I don't know this, but I wonder how many weeks the Canada Worker Lockdown benefit actually is, and how many times you can apply. We're going to find all of this out. How long will this pay? That's when we're going to find out. No sign of no increase for ODSP. That's an Ontario specific. I'm seeing RN here say, can you confirm that if you're a part of a household that has symptoms of COVID, you're qualified for CRCB even without a PCR test? A reporter asked Freeland, she directed people to apply to the CRCB. That's something that you're like, Google CRCB and it'll take you right to the government or CRA page for the CRCB, and that'll give you the better ideas for the eligibility requirements in all of them, because there's a ton. It's a kind of dense program, but it sounds like that could be a situation that would make sense for you. All right, so continuing here. Yeah, this $4 billion of additional spending is something that the Conservatives are going to be likely frustrated about, because there's something to be said about the more spending and more new money that gets created. Well, that's kind of like taking affordability away from people who are very low income, right? Because it makes the cost of living higher via inflation, but that's a topic for another day. The changes announced today are to programs that were enabled by the passage of Bill C2, passed on Thursday of last week, which received royal assent last week. But until now, no one had been eligible for the benefits because a full lockdown had not been declared in any part of the country. Dan Kelly, president of the CFIB, responded quickly on Twitter, calling the changes good news and direct recommendation. Yeah, he was in a video clip on the channel yesterday when we covered the likelihood of them actually doing what they have ended up doing. It's funny how we sort of call some of these things ahead of time on the channel. Okay, so there's no actual details here, some questions and some more paid vacations for workers. There's lots of takes on this sort of stuff. More debt and inflation ahead. Interesting stuff. But now what we can do is go away from this article and actually go and I'll go to YouTube here. And this is where I usually stream all my stuff. You can see all my hockey and my crypto videos on there recommended to me. Okay, so so here's the press conference. So likely the way we're going to do this, usually when I watch these press conferences, what I'll do if I'm like doing research to make a video, I'll turn it up to like 3x speed so I can like get through a 2-hour conference in a lot less time. But we're gonna watch this on normal speed just for ease of you understanding it and getting everything that's coming across here, and for me to take notes. But what we will expect is likely to skip around a little bit. I'll probably be poking around down here if we get onto a topic that I think isn't exactly pertinent to these benefits and the changes that we're most trying to cover here. Just be warned that I probably will skip some stuff here. But first we need to find where the press conference actually starts. All right, let's listen in here while I get things sorted. Doesn't know he's live yet.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are joined by the Prime Minister and Ministers Freeland, Duclos, and Qualtrough, as well as Dr. Tam and Dr. New. We will begin with opening statements followed by a question and answer period. Please, one question, one follow-up per caller. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. We're joined virtually by Ministers Freeland, Qualtrough, Duclos, as well as Dr. Tam and Dr. New. We're here today to talk about what we're doing to support workers and businesses and keep people safe. Before I get started, I just spoke with the 2 new leaders of Chile, as it took. That was the right thing, not just to help minimize the impact of the health crisis, but also to ensure that our economy could handle the shocks that this crisis is facing. And that's, unfortunately, what we're going to be continuing to do right now. I say unfortunately because, of course, nobody wants to be in the middle of an Omicron wave right now, but we are. So we are announcing today that we're temporarily expanding eligibility for key programs.
Okay, so this is what we
for the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit and the local lockdown program. You'll be able to apply if you're subject to capacity limiting restrictions.
So this is what we've just covered. I'm going to try to, I think most of the new information for people who have been here since the start of the stream will be when Christopher Freeland comes up with the details, because that's exactly what we don't know. Okay, so he's probably passing that on.
Following all public health guidance, so am I, and so must we all. But it's a reminder. So here she is.
We haven't heard this yet.
Christian, go ahead.
Let's go.
OK, merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Bonjour tout le monde. Dans les derniers jours, nous avons constaté une montée des cas de COVID-19. Certaines régions du pays...
I wonder if there's actually a translation, or maybe we'll just skip over the French aspects of it, or the French parts.
La semaine dernière, le projet ciblé pour soutenir plus ciblé that were approved with the... Today, through regulatory authorities that were approved with the passage of Bill C2, we are announcing our decision to temporarily expand the definition of a lockdown so that these wage and rent support programs can support workers and businesses that see capacity restricted by 50% or more. So, what exactly does this mean? It means that if you are an employer who has to reduce the capacity of your main business by 50% or more, you will be eligible for wage and rent subsidy support through the local lockdown program. And we are lowering the revenue decline threshold from 40% to 25%. Eligible employers will receive wage and rent subsidy support from between 25% to up to 75%, depending on how much revenue they have lost. Your organization only needs to demonstrate revenue loss during the current month compared with 2019.
Compared to 2019.
Employers will be able to apply for these expanded support programs after the end of each program period in exactly the same way that they received wage and rent subsidy support when those programs were launched last year. For workers,
Okay, so interesting stuff. I see a question here from Bobby saying, so does this benefit work like CRB? Or so we're getting these details right now, and after we find out these details from Freeland, we're going to do a little bit of sleuthing and see if they've updated this on any of the CRA websites.
or decision means that if you are working in a region where the provincial or territorial government has introduced capacity restrictions of 50% or more, and if you have lost 50% or more of your income as a direct result of those restrictions, you can qualify for the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit. This benefit will put $300 a week in your pocket to supplement your lost wages. This proposed expanded eligibility.
So this is another interesting thing, right? Like, and this is what the NDP have said, is that if the Liberals agreed that to live, people needed the $2,000 per month amount, then why, in a time when potentially we could be back in the same sort of situation, is it lower now when the cost of living has gone up? This is a criticism that the NDP push forward quite a lot. But of course, the Liberals are trying to be careful of the amount of money that they spend, because this is one of their other key criticisms, is that they're just spending money and creating new money willy-nilly, and that's causing the run-up of housing prices and the run-up of food prices and the less affordable nature of living in Canada.
Will be effective as of last Sunday, December 19th, 2021, and it will run through to February 12th, 2022. Many parts of the country have already introduced circuit breaker public health restrictions in order to curb the rise in cases of COVID. These expanded federal support measures will ensure that provinces and public health authorities across the country can continue to make the right, difficult decisions they need to make to save lives.
William, is there a start date? Alberta is saying we aren't in a lockdown. We just declared 50% reduction in capacity measures. It seems like that 50% number is going to be what you need to qualify as a lockdown. What the government's doing here is changing the definition of a lockdown in their bill and allowing that 50% reduction of capacity to then define a lockdown. So that's an interesting question and an interesting thing to note there.
Confident in the knowledge that the federal government will be there to financially support workers and businesses as we finish this fight. Notre gouvernement sait que d'autres entreprises sont encore touchées par la pandémie.
My French isn't that great, so we're going to skip.
So, as Dr. Tam reminded us last week, all pandemics do end. The emergence and the swift rise of Omicron is not something that any of us welcome. It's coming at a hard time, at a time when many of us, particularly our remarkable healthcare workers, are really, really tired. But I know that we can and we must do what it takes to beat this virus, to finish the fight against COVID. Canadians are smart. We are resilient. We support each other. And we have the tools we need, both healthcare tools and financial support measures to win this fight against COVID. With today's expanded federal support programs, Canadians can follow new provincial health restrictions, knowing that the federal government is there, as we have been from the start, to support everyone. Thank you. And let me now pass the mic over to my colleague, Minister Carla Qualtrough. Carla, please.
This is Carla Qualtrough, the Minister of Employment and Disability. So we're likely going to hear more about the details on how you apply for this. I saw the question here about, they said, December 19th, this is when these retroactive changes are going to be applied to. This is a little bit confusing because I know inside of the legislation, and we're going to do a deeper dive on this soon when we get to it, but there's a criteria in there that says all of the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit will apply retroactively even all the way back until October. So if you were in a 50% reduction all the way back in October or sometime in between then, there is a chance that you might be able to apply for some of those periods retroactively for additional support. But I'm seeing a lot of questions here. Thank you, John, for saying Merry Christmas. I appreciate it. I think that, when will applications for this open? It seems like the only thing slowing this down would likely be the CRA setting things up. We're going to get to that, all those answers throughout this stream. This is, I'm finding things out as you guys are and explaining it as we go. So we're going to get this all figured out together.
Merci, thank you. Bonjour, hello everyone. J'aimerais vous parler brièvement de la façon dont nous soutenons les travailleurs canadiens face à cette crise de santé publique qui évolue rapidement.
Okay.
Nous avons compris plus tard que the Canada workers. Unfortunately, we know that we could be in a situation with des restrictions de capacité et, malheureusement, des fermetures complètes ou partielles.
People don't know how to tilt the camera
province, la
down a little bit.
Colombie-Britannique, a annoncé des mesures pas plus tard qu'hier. If we've learned anything from this pandemic, we've learned that COVID-19 is unpredictable and we don't always know what lies ahead. But unfortunately, we know that we could be in a situation again where there would be new regional public health measures to help stop the spread of COVID-19. So when we introduced Bill C2, which included the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit, we made sure we built in flexibilities so that we could be agile and make adjustments to support Canadian workers in their time of need. As we've been monitoring the public health situation, we've seen the need to expand the eligibility of the benefits for Canadians whose jobs are impacted by partial lockdowns or reduced capacity orders. That's why today we're making the necessary and temporary adjustments to the benefit to expand the definition of a lockdown order to include workers facing work reductions as a result of capacity restrictions of 50% or higher. Eligible workers could receive $300 per week if they've lost work as a direct result of a public health lockdown order.
So that's an interesting criteria as well, is like as a direct result, right? This is something that was a little bit loosely worded, both the CERB and the CRB, is who deems whether or not my loss of income is a direct result of this, right? This is some sort of like the loose language that's in here sometimes. I'd like to see the actual.
This Canada Workers
changes.
Lockdown Benefit is in addition to the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit and the Canada Recovery Caregivers Benefit, both which remained available to Canadian workers. We understand that Canadians may be feeling discouraged by the recent rise in COVID cases and new public health measures, especially at this time of year. And while the situation is evolving rapidly across the country, please be assured we'll continue to support Canadian workers as we've done throughout the pandemic. I'll leave it there and I'll pass it on to my colleague, Minister Duclos.
Claude Duclos.
Merci beaucoup, Carla, et bonjour à tous et à toutes. C'est avec grand plaisir que je me joins à vous qui se sont eligible. We are making sure that our distribution strategy ensures equitable access.
Okay, so he's just going to be talking about the spread of the booster vaccines and like how they're distributing that, as well as PCR tests. So that's not exactly pertinent to what we're trying to figure out today. Neither will Theresa Tam's words or her translator's words. But we're going to go back to Trudeau, and there's likely going to be some reporter questions here. So maybe some of these details will be revealed here.
And detail who have tested positive are following public health guidelines, as am I, as are everyone. I have been taking rapid tests, so far negative, but following public health guidelines, I'm being careful about everything that I do, which is part of the reason why we're in virtual today. Secondly, a lot of people are having very difficult conversations. Nobody wanted to be in here.
Okay.
What looked like perhaps the beginning of the end family for Christmas in our household. Better news facing, most of us will just have a slightly smaller facilities out there, and quite frankly, will determine just how difficult the entire winter will be.
Hello. There we go. Here's a new question.
And quite frankly, will determine just how difficult the entire winter will be.
And just as a follow-up, when you talk about the announcement of the expansion of the benefits, things have been moving very quickly, probably more quickly than we have at any point during this pandemic. But it's also not our first wave. How is it that some feel that we're still behind the eight ball here? We're playing catch-up with Canadians not being able to access the programs they need in the timely fashion they need, because a lot of people feel like they saw this coming, but the benefits weren't there yet.
I mean, this is a good question because, literally everyone was saying nobody's going to be able to get these benefits when they need them, and now we're kind of running a little bit behind.
We saw this coming. We saw the potential for this coming, which is why we put forward Bill C2, Bill C3 measures to support people. We are glad it got passed at the very end of the parliamentary sitting. We would have liked it to have been passed earlier, but having been passed now, we're able to adjust the regulations a little bit so as where it was created in case of localized lockdowns, that there be supports. Now we're expanding it so that it's there for places with reduced capacity. So we have the measures in place. Sure, we would have liked to have been able to pass them quicker in this Parliament, but as you know, Mike, Parliament moves at its own speed, but at least they are in place now so we can be delivering those supports to Canadians as quickly as possible.
Another interesting thing to note that wasn't included in Bill C2 was any language to prevent the similar clawbacks that are happening to people's GIS and CCB right now from actually happening even with this Canada Worker Lockdown benefit, which is a little bit frustrating to see that they're not potentially learning from past issues.
Thank you. Merci. La prochaine question nous vient de Boris Proux, Le Devoir. À vous la parole.
Bonjour. Question très simple. Est-ce que l'élargissement de l'accès aux aides aux entreprises...
Entreprise qui est importante, ce qui était élevable là pour à une...
To get a rapid test. And for boosters right now, it's basically Hunger Games to try and get a shot. We're 2 years into the pandemic, basically. So how is Canada in such a terrible position right now?
Well, first of all, Mackenzie, on rapid tests, as of the beginning of December, we'd sent out 85 million rapid tests to provinces and territories. That's over the past year. Not all of them had been used, and there were many stockpiled. We're delivering more rapid tests now, 35 million throughout the distribution in terms of
just could say
boosters.
The provinces didn't distribute it properly.
We've been working very, very closely on all the details of the current situation with experts from public health isolation. But of course, we're going to continue to monitor and follow those public health guidelines to the letter.
Thank you. Merci. La prochaine question, Julie-Anne Lapointe, Radio-Canada.
OK.
À vous.
Maintenant, alors, faut continuer. We have all been working flat out and learning much about COVID over the past 2 years, and indeed bracing for Omicron. When Omicron started to hit, we took immediate measures at the border to try and slow the arrival of Omicron, which I think probably bought us a little bit of time. But even before Omicron's arrival, we were there on stepping up to order enough boosters are more properly given to the provinces, but we will be.
Well, I'd like to ask you about President Biden's speech yesterday, because he obviously the messages that American presidents deliver have long been heard in Canadian living rooms and homes, whether despite the fact they don't govern Canadians. And yet I'm wondering what you make of what he said, of what President Biden said yesterday as far as the holiday season, and how much do you think that will resonate with Canadians and some of the...
And just as a reply to people in the comments, as soon as we get through all the information in this video, and we're skipping through it pretty quickly here, we're going to look to see if we have any actual writing and details on who can apply and how they can apply, and the amount of times they can apply, and who and where, and all of these important questions for this benefit, and when the first application will be for it.
Decisions that they may make given the message you're delivering today.
Canadians are among the most vaccinated people in the world. Americans have the holiday season, reduce there afterwards.
Going on with
time for one more.
Hier, pour être sûr de bien comprendre.
Perhaps Jean-Yves will want to elaborate at that question to begin with, and then perhaps Jean-Yves will want to elaborate. Look, Canada is not the United States. And I think all of us know that very profoundly. And our countries have taken very different approaches in the fight against COVID. I know that this is a really hard time for everyone in Canada, but I think also we should take some comfort and draw confidence from the fact that when you compare how Canada has done to the way that other similar peer countries only push back against, I think Canadians should be reassured by the fact that we are ready for this as a country to pay for all of these support.
Oh, more talk about supports.
For precisely this situation. In the fall economic update, we provisioned the money to pay for all of these supports. And as Jean-Yves has been quite rightly emphasizing, as a country, we've done really well, not just on buying vaccines, but on all of us getting vaccinated. And as you see from the experience of many countries, that is not so easy to do. So I think as Canadians, we should really feel to really kicking back and relaxing. But we have
as the government watched the provinces sit on rapid tests for the last almost 2 years.
About rapid testing.
In the many health officers make to offer that support. That is the Canadian way. We believe in resilience. We believe in supporting each other. And that's what we've done since the beginning of COVID. That's going to be what we continue to do. Jean-Yves, est-ce que tu veux ajouter quelque chose?
No, I think you said it really well, Krista.
Thank you. Merci.
What's his next question?
The next question is from Rafi Boudjikanian from CBC News. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Thank you. This is for the health minister. We're seeing the province of Nova Scotia pretty much abandon using the federal COVID app, saying the uptake was very low, so they're relying on people who test positive to contact their own close contacts.
Any
choices?
Date that we would be making payments to those seniors to compensate them.
Aspect here. This is a
date that we for the GIS, but also got support from the CERB are facing. And it is precisely because our government shares the concerns that many people have and has been listening to those seniors that I made the announcement last week in the economic update that we would be making payments to those seniors to compensate them for that GIS which they lost. It is technically something quite challenging to do, just given the different payment systems the federal government has. I would like to assure seniors, though, that we're aware of their needs. Seniors who qualify for the GIS are among the most vulnerable people in Canada. And we are working really, really hard to get this done as soon as possible.
That answer frustrates me. I don't really respond to a lot of these answers, but there have been seniors who are the most vulnerable seniors in the entire country living on GIS, the Guaranteed Income Supplement, just barely scraping by, and they've had this benefit clawed back from them because they accepted COVID support in the previous year, and this has been a problem for months now. They're not getting the payments that they have built their lives around expecting, and now they're saying that, oh, we're working really hard on it, but we might might not be able to recompensate these people until June or until May. But like you can't, people who are living on the fringes and don't have savings to live on for the amount of time to live until they get this recompensation. It's a far more immediate problem. But that's something that if you've been watching the videos, you'll know is a frustration of the Bill C2 that nothing was included in this for that.
Thank you.
Okay, we're getting close to the end of it, and then we're going to go take a look. Okay.
Take care of someone who is sick or needs act that we have past 10 days of federal sick leave. So for people specifically who need to stay home to take care of someone who is sick or needs to self-isolate, or who themselves are sick or need to self-isolate, those benefits at $500 a week continue to be in place as they were in sort of the darkest early days of the pandemic. And then I would sort of more broadly say, we recognize that the restrictions that many provinces and territories have put in place are very significant. And that is really at the heart of today's announcement. We use the regulatory flexibility that we built in to C2 to give us the ability to provide wage subsidy, rent subsidy, and income support to people even absent a full formal lockdown. That's the heart of what we're saying today. But I will maybe pass it over to Carla to see if she wants to say anything more, perhaps about the sickness and caregiver benefits.
Oh, thank you, Christia. Yeah, just to emphasize, Stephanie, how important it is to have the caregiver and sickness benefits available to Canadian workers. So the caregiver benefit is available for 44 weeks now, and the sickness benefit for 8. If your child is not able to go to school for reasons related to COVID, you can take time off work and get this benefit at $500. If you have to self-isolate, if you're sent home from work to self-isolate, you have access to the sickness benefit. So the lockdown benefit is additional to these two kind of foundational pieces related to public health and sickness and COVID itself. The lockdown benefit is for people who have experienced job loss or reduced hours as a result of public health lockdown orders, which come in a variety of shapes and sizes, as we've seen, including reduced capacity orders, which we're adding to the list of orders today or that are being added that qualify people for the lockdown benefit. So it's in addition to these other ongoing benefits that we have.
Okay, thank you for that. And just as my follow-up, I guess it's back to you, Minister Freeland. You earlier used, you were talking about the distinction between Canada and the U.S., and you said that we have demonstrated national capacity to deal with this. But have we, though? Because if we had the capacity to deal with this, then we wouldn't have PCR testing backlogs, meaning people have to isolate for days on end. We wouldn't be slashing business capacities to avoid overrunning our hospitals. And we wouldn't be worried about overrunning our hospitals if we had demonstrated national capacity. So I'm wondering, why it is you think we are somehow better prepared or have the capacity in place to weather this when many people don't feel like that's their lived reality right now?
Well, look, it's a really good question, Stephanie, and I do not want in any way to minimize how hard things are right now, nor to minimize the fact that we are in for some even tougher times ahead. And that is true. And that is really hard. I was going to say it's frustrating, but that is probably too mild an adjective. These are some very difficult times, and there are almost certainly even more difficult times ahead. But I do think that it is also really, really important for Canadians to be reassured by the progress that we have made in the 21 months we've been fighting COVID, and to be reassured it means that as quickly as we are acquiring for $1.7 billion, and
getting more tests,
additional public health to them in advance. But even
okay, that's the end of the presser here. Okay, so things we've learned. A quick aside here. I'll take these off because I don't need to listen anymore. Quick aside. Here are the things that we've learned. There are 3 total benefits that you can apply for currently right now during this Omicron sort of stage. There's 2 that previously existed, one that was recently created through the passage of Bill C2. You'll have heard of the CRCB, the Canada Recovery Caregiving Benefit, the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit, and the new benefit with the changes that are happening today called the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit. CRCB, that's the caregiving benefit, helps people who need to watch their children because there's been daycare shut down, schools shut down, lots of other eligibility requirement. You can check that out on their website. CRSB is for people who have been exposed to or currently are exhibiting COVID symptoms, and there's, again, all of the eligibility in there. Those are both $500 per week benefits that you can apply for. They've existed for quite some time, but have recently been extended with Bill C2. Also in Bill C2 was the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit, but there was a problem with the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit. It didn't allow people to apply for it unless there was a full 100% lockdown in their individual health region, be it provincial, municipal, or I guess federal, I guess. So they recognized, hey, businesses and people can't apply for these lockdown supports because nobody qualifies. Who would have thought it? So their announcement today, this is the big news, is that they're changing via regulation. This is what we said yesterday, what they could do. They're changing via regulation the definition of what a lockdown is. Previously, it was only 100% lockdown. You can't go into work. That's when you can get the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit. Now, if your province or your health region or your municipality says we have 50% capacity restrictions in place, and also you can demonstrate a 50% reduction in your income, that if you can do both of those things, that you could be eligible for the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit. This is the new information that we've gotten today. But what we're going to do now is look for and see if there's been changes on the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit page. It looks like there haven't been. I'm just flipping over here and taking a look here at Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit. Currently, there are no designated Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit regions. So this announcement came today. Usually the CRAs takes a little bit of time to update their page. So we're going to have to look for a statement now from the Ministry of Finance. Let me see. I'll go Krista Freeland, CWLB changes, Department of Finance, and see if we can find anything here on what exactly is changing here. Okay, so do we only, it looks like we only have the, so we're going to crowdsource this a little bit. This is why it's called a research stream. If anyone can find, if you're on your computer right now, any sort of official document with the actual language of what regulatory changes are being made, this is what we need to know now, because we've heard, okay, 50% capacity limits, 50% reduction of your income, that will qualify you for Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit. But what we don't have yet is something that's actually physically written down on a website that we can take a closer look at to actually confirm this and make sure there's no funny business in the wording. So if anyone finds that, at me in the chat with that link, and I'll go to it. I'm going to keep searching for it here. This is the main article that we were reading before. Okay, so let me see. Bill C2 proposed regulations. Proposed regulations, news. Okay, so here's the Globe and Mail. Are you really gonna? Oh man. I thought I had some sort of extension that would allow me to see that. Yikes. Okay, so here's Globals. I won't be behind a paywall there. The government is expanding eligibility for the CWLB. We know that. Temporarily expanding the eligibility. Okay. 300 to 270 after taxes for each 1 week period until May 7th. Only applies until February 12th, 2022. Lost 50% or more of your income. as a result of these capacity limits. Okay, so that's loose wording. This is why we need to see the wording, like what actually qualifies as lost income as a result of capacity limits. Okay, C2 became law last Friday. We know that. Government's website says that we're going to open that in a new tab, see what that is. Businesses, we know this. Thanks to the language, the government was immediately able to expand its COVID benefits in reaction. This is through regulatory authorities. The regulations written into this bill expanded the definition, financially support workers and businesses. We need to see the actual words of this to make sure there's nothing like weird or funny going on with it. Based on what I'm seeing so far, okay, it's still saying applications aren't available. So we don't have any language right now, it looks like, especially if you guys haven't found anything. But here are the assumptions so far. I'll go over it one more time. We don't know when the first day that you can apply for this is because they need to make the change on this CRA webpage, right, to allow for CWLB applications to be available, because certainly with these new changes, there are going to be people who are eligible now and were eligible for weeks previously and will be able to apply retroactively. So that's something that we're going to need to look at here. And so we know about the CRCB, the CRSB, as well as the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit, the CWLB, all of these acronyms. Oh my gosh. So we've gone over what qualifies you. I'm hoping that this clarifies things. I think we're going to have a short stream here today so I can make a full video of all three programs so that everyone can have one central resource to go to understand it all. But just as a thank you to the people who have tuned into this stream, we're going to take a second to do a Q&A, anything you want, whether it be about these benefits or about something else. The way to get my attention is to do @RussellMatthews in the chat. It'll light up on my screen so I can see the question. And we're going to do about 5 to 10 minutes here of questions. And hopefully I can answer your questions about these benefits as well as any other questions you might have for me. So let me know what you want to know. And we can hopefully go over some of that. Canary TV says, do you see the CRB or CRSB being extended for the new year? Well, currently these benefits do go until May, with the option to extend it even till June. But the thing that doesn't get extended with the extension of the program is the maximum amount of weeks that you can apply for the CRCB as well as the CRSB. Those are hard caps. So if you've already exhausted all of that, it doesn't much matter to you that these programs go until May. But for people who haven't applied for every single period and exhausted every period, you could even start now on the CRCB and go all the way until May and not exhaust the entirety of your, I think, 44 periods or 44 weeks that you can apply for. Synth says, Russell, I'm a casino worker and I've been off since this started. Will I qualify when my CRB ran out in October? This is tricky to tell you about the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit on this front until we get the actual language. Are you going to have to, actually it might be in here. When do you have to show the loss of income? You have to show 50% loss of income. Is that versus 2019's income? In that case, likely yes, you could be eligible for this. But if it's like as of maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, or a separate year where perhaps you didn't make the minimum $5,000 or the 50% reduction of income, well then you may not be eligible for this. So this is why we need the details and we don't have them yet. So again, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel because I'm going to keep posting videos with all the information here. Hopefully we get it soon, so I'm not making a video about this on Christmas Day and people can keep figuring things out or actually know all the information. Okay, so Donnie says, not a question, just wanted to thank you for all your work you put into this channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy the holidays. Thank you so much, Donnie. That means a lot. Thanks for tuning in. Mir says, did you apply for the CRB? In the never the CRB, but the CERB at the very beginning. I did for a time when I was unable to do my real estate work and the other work that I do. That's my main source of income. So that was at the very beginning of the pandemic. Canary says, thank you. Thanks so much for tuning in, Canary. I appreciate it. Cable Radio says, I'd be interested to know how much UBI would cost in comparison to the endless list of acronyms this Liberal government has made. Liberals love kicking the can down the road. Yeah, that's an argument that people are saying, like, hey, what are the administrative costs of all of these countless, very intricate programs, and what kind of staff do you need to hire to understand that and to operate it, rather than having potentially one more overarching program that is universal. But this is also challenging because we don't, I never give my full opinion on whether UBI is good or bad, because I personally don't know, because UBI is not just this one standard thing that this is how it would work. UBI is kind of the idea, but until we actually have legislation and statements and clarity from the people who would be implementing that, well, I can't say if it's good or bad, right? But good question. You know the vibes says, do you think the CWLB will allow people to apply who are on CRB after the EI ran out? Based on what I'm seeing right now, I don't see anything that's saying that that wouldn't be the case. If you're someone who can show the 50% reduction in income as well as the 50% restriction in your health region, then I don't see why you wouldn't be eligible even if you were on EI and CRB after that. Matt Rosie says, Russell Matthews, during the press conference, Freeland stated as of December 19th. Merry Christmas, Russell. Okay, so, yeah, okay, thank you very much, Matt, for that, and thanks for being a constant viewer and someone who's been so supportive throughout the time that I've been having this channel, Matt. Thank you for that. So it sounds, yeah, she did say December 19th is when it would be retroactive until, so perhaps only people who are in these looser regulations only apply to people as of December 19th until February 15th or something, was it? So you may be able to very soon apply for the previous week, the previous $270 after tax. So that's helpful, Matt. Thank you. I just don't know when the CRA is going to have their page updated also. Apple 2GS or Apple 2G says, are benefits earned in 2020 CERB and CERB counted as part of your 5,000 plus income, not just employment income? I think that would likely be the case because in every other aspect of taxes and all of this, CRB and CERB are included in your income. So likely for qualifying for this benefit, you would likely be able to include that in your income. But let me see if I can, where is that? This is not the best webpage for it. Let me answer that question in a little bit more detail here. Just the CWLB. This is very not detailed. There was more detail about this. In any effect, I think that likely that's included, but there could be something in there about employment income only. Young Savage says, how will CWLB be different than CRB? Well, CRB, Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit, the difference here is that you need to show that there's a 50% capacity reduction imposed by the provincial or local government in your area, and you have to show a 50% loss in income, which I think was also the case for the CRB. Cable Radio says, how have you gone over the NDP's new motion for guaranteed livable basic income? I think it's Bill 223 or something. Might make for an interesting video. Thank you for all the work you do, Russell. Happy holidays. Thanks so much for the kind words, Cable. I did see that, and that's on my list of things to cover. But today, obviously, this is taking precedent over that video that I probably would have made. It's interesting. I read it. It wouldn't bring in a basic income. It would force the finance minister to develop a national strategy on implementing in the future. I think that this is sort of something that both people who want UBI and people who don't want UBI will collectively be a little bit frustrated about. People who don't want UBI are saying, hey, why would we force us to actually have to go through on this? People who do want a UBI would say, why are we making it so that it's going to take 5 years of consultation to bring this in instead of more soon? But definitely something I'll cover for you, Cable. Matt says, my guess is they have been scrambling since the beginning of the week to figure out something as they weren't expecting this situation to happen. Yeah, I think you're likely right. And also since they're we've been covering it for quite some time, and we sort of hone in on these details, but it was only yesterday and the day before that CBC and Global and the Globe and Financial Post all started reporting on the fact that, hey, these benefits don't work, right? Like we've been saying that for 3 weeks, or since whenever C2 was put into place. But with that additional pressure, maybe that comes the belief that you actually have to make some changes to the program. I say here, Saucepan saying, hey Russ, thanks for your videos. I'm self-employed, haven't made more than $5,000 as I wasn't eligible for CRB. Would the CWLB be good for me? I think you can likely use 2019 and 2020 as well to qualify for it. So if your income was above $5,000, yes. But if it wasn't, then I think that will be the criteria for you to be able to apply for these benefits. Really? Ford can't go home. Lots of protesters outside. That's interesting. Mark says, thanks for your help throughout this mess. Merry Christmas, brother. Merry Christmas to you too, Mark. Apple 2G says it's in Bill C2, I think under Part 2, subsection 3. Let me pull that up. Bill C2, Legis Info. Bill C2, subsection 3. Fun stuff. For the Canada, what was that question for specifically, Apple 2GS? When does CWLB start? Oliver, it technically already has. It's retroactive to December 19th. But currently applications aren't open because there haven't been any changes on the CRA's website, as best I understand. Anthony, I think that this does apply for people who are self-employed. If you show the loss of income and the 50% reduction, but you have to prove that was as a result of these reductions in capacity. Again, I'm going to be making a more detailed video about this. Likely that will go up tonight or tomorrow morning. So keep your eyes posted on the channel for that and give that a watch because I'm going to get into all of these details. Matt says, it seems that basically they don't want to renege on canceling the CRB, but know if they don't do something now because of the situation, they'll have a hell of a situation. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Matt. Sarai Dempsey says, thank you for doing this and happy holidays. If you keep answering all our questions better than our politicians, we'll have to vote you in. I've had people from time to time say, Russell, you should go into politics. And I think with the amount that I never say never, but I think with the amount that I've watched these committee meetings and watched the proceedings in the House of Commons, it's so slow moving and so frustrating, the games that can be played and the inefficiencies of the system. I think personally, if I were involved in that, I would be rather frustrated and probably not my happiest in my life. So, because I get frustrated enough just covering it here and seeing all of these problems. But if I was in a situation where hey, I have ideas to make things better, but I can't do them because of all the red tape and all of the lengthy sort of proceedings, I think that I wouldn't be the happiest. So I'm probably leaning on the side of not doing that, but never say never. Ryan says, casinos who decided not to increase their capacity since first lock, did their decision affect workers' eligibility who have not been called back for this new benefit? Thank you, Russell. That's interesting. I think it's less on the individual capacity of the business and more on the capacity restrictions put in place by the provincial or municipal government. So if they haven't been up to the capacity limits ever, well, that's not as consequential as what the current guidelines are for the provincial government. That's my understanding of it right now. Matt says I'd be like Polyev. I think I'd have some similar views, some contradictory views to Poilievre, and I think I might package it a little bit differently because while Poilievre's clips really work well for getting people rallied behind him, I think in committees is not the most efficient when it comes to compromise. I'll just say that, but definitely some good aspects of that. Belina says, is this true attestation or actual proof and documentation? I'm not entirely sure exactly because the details aren't out here as to what these regulation changes are going to be, but we'll find out about that soon enough. Likely is just attesting to it and saying, yes, this is the case, like it has been with the CRB. Kid Kane says, when sending more verification documents will take up to 8 weeks, then if denied, we have to appeal before courts with another 8 weeks. Is this still going? I mean, this is the frustration of the CRA. There's been multiple reports that they're not efficient in doing what they do in verifying things. And even though they have increased the funding to the CRA to get these things done. Whether or not we're actually going to be seeing people verified or what those verification requirements are going to be, well, that's yet to be seen. And I was definitely talked to a lot of people who reached out to me over the past year saying, hey, I've been stuck waiting for benefits for 8 weeks with not hearing back from the CRB after they requested additional verification. Yeah, Matt, great political response to that comment. Yeah, I guess maybe I would have experience of trying to stay in the middle because I think it's important to doing any sort of news channel to not entirely reveal all of your sort of views and try to look at it right from the middle so that both people who are more left-leaning than me and people who are more right-leaning than me can learn from some sort of central ground. Samira, if you can see, I don't know how that would apply to someone who's a skip driver because do you have a 50% reduction in your income? Does your health region have a 50% reduction in capacity? These are the main issues, main requirements. So all right. So I think on that note, I'm going to get to work here on putting together an actual non-live stream video with a little bit more information. Apple2G says 5,000 income if CERB and CRB count as your income. Okay. Oh yeah, that was the question. Let me check here for the Canada Worker Lockdown benefit. This will be the last question we cover. I'm just going in. Okay, I'll show you what I'm doing. Going in here to see what kind of income you have to be. Okay, so total income of at least $5,000 from the following sources in the 12-month period preceding the day for 2020 or for 2020, so you can't take 2019 income. At least $5,000 from following sources. Employment, self-employed applies. Benefits. Okay, so your $5,000, yes, can come from the CERB or the CRB, CRCB, or CRSB. That's good to know. Thank you for pulling up that response or that info for us, Apple. Sarai says the reason you would kick ass in politics is because you're trying to remain objective more than we can say about our current leaders. I think that it's tough though because it's very hard to make any political headway if you are a centrist and you don't take hardline issues, right? And I think there's personally more that I can do in the private sector and honestly in the development of new systems backed by everything that's developing in Web3 that's sort of tied to the crypto side of things. Crypto isn't just speculation. There's underneath the surface, there's a lot of infrastructure being built to allow for more democratic systems and more social coordination. I think I can make more of a difference on that front than if I were to get involved in politics. Yeah, Matt says that with Skip, Uber, DoorDash, they won't have a decrease in work. It will likely have an increase again. So likely that wouldn't qualify you for the benefit. Okay, well, on that note, thank you so much for everyone who's tuned in and stuck around and supported this channel. If you haven't already, subscribed to the channel. More detailed information coming soon when we get it. Happy holidays, everyone. I hope this video has helped you out. I think I'll leave it at that. I'm going to go make another coffee and then get started on this next video. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.